usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a beautiful Wednesday night, the 22nd of April 2026. As we speak, Barcelona lead against Celta Vigo by a goal to nil, thanks to that penalty by Lamine Yamal before he went off through what appeared to be an injury. Then on the other side, Manchester City are still battling it out against Burnley, and they have that 1-0 lead thanks to a first half goal by Brad Erling Haaland. So there's that. So all that is happening. Released in an earlier game, I think Atletico de Madrid were beaten by 2-0. They had to finish that game by a man less following the sending off, I think, of was it Almada? I stand to be corrected, but yeah, and things like that. So then PSG managed to overcome Nice, beating them by 3-0. Desle Doué, Kivica Kvaratskhelia are the goal scorers in that one. Kivica Kvaratskhelia scoring a brace, one from the penalty spot, and then we saw the return of Fabian Ruiz in that team. So things are happening as we speak now in as far as football is concerned. For the other games, we'll simply give you the updates. Bournemouth are leading against Leeds by a goal to nil as we speak. So all that is happening tonight, or as I talk to you in the moment. So we'll be looking at all that and more in as far as tonight's broadcast is concerned. So then we'll be talking about the sacking of Liam Rosenior by Chelsea, because that has stolen the headlines, so much so that some people may even forget that there's some crucial Premier League games tonight. So, that's how just it's been. And so, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Aha, really? Come on. Anyways, so yeah, we'll be talking about all that, among other things, in the course of this particular broadcast. So do join me as we take it on in tonight's conversation. You'll allow me have our audios tested just to make sure everything checks out perfectly well. Yeah. But I wish to send my sincere vote of thanks to all of you that have recently subscribed to the channel. Thank you so much, and please keep it up. Do not just stop at subscribing. Go ahead and watch all our content. Like, comment, share, etc. Do all those things. Do all those things that help this channel continue to grow. And I really, really appreciate it a great deal. On that note, therefore, I wish to send my sincere special thanks to United. He was called 10 United something. I'm forgetting the other name, but he was part of our morning broadcast, and he made it quite worthwhile with all the engagement and the questions, and things like that. So, yeah. Anyways, I hope the audios are fine for those of you that are receiving me from that side. Otherwise, on my side, everything does check out perfectly well. Sonu Patel says, "Hi guys, Kahan Siho. I don't know what that means. I don't know what language that is, but thank you so much, Sonu, for joining us on the Football Tribe UG channel. For those of you that are just joining us, my name is Robert Kesakos, and I come to you live from Kampala, Uganda, where it's 24 minutes past the hour of 11 p.m. And I say welcome to the Football Tribe UG channel. Do me the absolute honor and favor and like the broadcast, but also please consider subscribing to the channel if it is your first time here. And if you're a regular, again, simply do the needful. Football Tribe UG is a sports channel, is a football channel. We get to sit here and talk everything football. And on that very note, I wish to send my sincere vote of thanks to Team India. Thank you so much for the continued love and support, even though you may not be the biggest of football fans, but I do appreciate every single minute that you do spare to render your support to this channel. It's really, really much appreciated as far as we go. Sono says, up Hindi, Joel, English. Oh, please speak in Hindi. Okay. Unfortunately, I do not know Hindi. I do not know Hindi. So I can only communicate to you in the language best known to me, but also what I deem to be largely or fairly a common language to most. So kindly indulge me. I can't speak Hindi because I do not know the language. I don't even know how they greet in Hindi. So forgive me if I do not meet your expectations in the language department, but it is what it is. It is what it is. So yeah, Manchester City are still holding on to that one lead. Twice in this game, they've I think twice or thrice. I think twice. They hit the post in the first half through Ryan Cherki, and then in the second half through Brad Erling Haaland. Meanwhile, Leeds have found the equalizer against FC Bournemouth, and that game is 1-1 as we speak. Jesus Christ. Yes. So goes from Junior Kropi as well as Gantonto are the goal scorers in that one. So it's 1-1. I think I went for a draw in that one in my prediction, in as far as I can remember. While for Manchester City, I went for a 3-0 victory for Manchester City. But regardless of how it finishes, if it does finish the way it is for Manchester City, now it will still be the fact that Manchester City are moving to the summit or to the top of the Premier League table with a superior goal difference compared to the Gunners as we speak, unless Burnley can conjure up something and come up with an equalizer, which is highly unexpected or unlikely to happen as well in this particular game. So, we wait to see how it does finish. Football can be a game of miracles, but they do not come very often. It can be a game of surprises. In other words, we often conclude with the phrase of anything can happen. You leave something to chance because we have seen some stunning results before, those that you had never imagined would happen. Really? Wait. So Barcelona are going to use up all their substitutions in the first half in terms of span? Jesus Christ. How unfortunate. Okay, let me hope that's not the case, because that would be really, really unfortunate. They've had some injuries. Meanwhile, like I said, the biggest news of the night is Chelsea sacking Liam Rosenior after only 3 months in charge. Remember, he was only appointed in January. So he's been shown the exit. He was coming on to almost 4 months in the role, but after 5 consecutive defeats in the Premier League with 0 goals scored, which has happened to the team for the first time since November 1912, they've made the difficult decision to show him the exit, and therefore, Carl McFarlane will be Chelsea's interim coach until the end of the season, and will command them in their FA Cup semi-final against Southampton over the weekend. So expect that to happen. But guys, we'll digest the implications of that sacking perhaps at the tail end of this game. Let's first see out the Man City game, but we'll go on, nibbling on it slowly by slowly. I think I don't think it's very unexpected, even though it's come earlier than I'd anticipated. Meanwhile, Manchester City have just missed another golden opportunity to go 2-0 up. You say, why are you the Zara? Is it Zaran? You retracted your comment. But Manchester City just missed an opportunity to go 2-0 up. Savinho missing there. Zaran says, Liverpool. What about Liverpool? What do you want me to talk about in regards to Liverpool? Because for Liverpool, Anna Slot is still available, and they keep with their push for a top 5 finish to see where things will end. And so for Chelsea, like I was saying, following yesterday's shambolic performance, and do you think the team is good? Yeah, I think Liverpool. the team is good, but squad-wise, Liverpool are lacking in some departments, particularly defensively. They need some numbers, and within the midfield, and that's why they've already agreed a deal in principle to sign Jeremy Jacquet from Stade Rennes for £6 million, and then also come to learn that they are interested in Bournemouth's Marco Senesi. Then when it comes to midfielders, I'm yet to hear so much so on who they have their attention on, but that is also going to be another point of focus when they go into the summer. So expect a lot of incomings in as far as Liverpool is concerned. But yeah, Arne Slot is okay. I do not. It's come out recently that his bosses are not looking to make a managerial change, regardless of the current circumstances, that they are bound to end the season trophyless. As far as things stand, having exited from the UEFA Champions League, subsequently earlier on from the FA Cup at the hands of Manchester City, and earlier on in the season at the hands of Southampton from the Carabao Cup. You know, I'm 100% certain, as night follows day, that Man City are going to win this game. Basically, Burnley are prolonging their own death, which is already happening as we speak, because, I mean, they are already 1-0 behind. Who will win the league and the Champions League? Now, earlier on in the season, or prior to the start of the season, my prediction was that Arsenal will win the Premier League. Unfortunately, they have squandered that leverage or that advantage to Manchester City now. It's in Manchester City's hands to determine their destiny and go ahead and win the Premier League title. All they need to do is simply win their remaining 6 games, and the Premier League title will be theirs. Arsenal let themselves down with that defeat against FC Bournemouth, with that defeat against Manchester City, and prior to that with the draws against Brentford and Wolverhampton Wanderers, and to look further back, the draws against Nottingham Forest and Liverpool. All those were huge chances for Arsenal to take a bigger point margin or bigger point lead at the expense of Manchester City, but they did not capitalize on those. So it's come back to bite them, and they only have themselves to blame. Who is winning the league? That's Just for the Laugh. Fortunately for Just for the Laugh, good to have you back, by the way, on the channel. You found me responding to that very question. And I think anything can still happen. Either Man City and Arsenal can still win it. But for me, I deem it now that the destiny, or it is in the hands of Manchester City. Really, it's prior to the Bournemouth game, prior to the Man City game, I was constantly saying it's for Man City to lose. As we speak, I was saying it's for Arsenal to lose. Now the roles have reversed. The page has been flipped. It's now for Manchester City to lose. In terms of the UEFA Champions League, that's a bit of a difficult question, but I'll still have a crack at it anyway. At the start of the season, and I've been saying this, Bayern Munich, for me, right from the onset, have felt as one of the favorites. PSG, I did not think they would come thus far. Nonetheless, I still do not think they are going to defend it. I have a feeling that Bayern Munich are destined to lift it under Vincent Kompany. Now, usually when I'm asked that question, it begs a question of who I think who is going to advance at the semi-finals, respectively. Obviously, if I'm tipping Bayern Munich to win it, that means I'm tipping them to overcome PSG and advance to the finals. That will be at the Puskás Arena in Budapest later next month, or at the tail end of next month. And then on the other arm of Arsenal and Atletico de Madrid, based on the Arsenal that I've seen in recent, in the last 6 games or so, and I've gone with Atletico de Madrid to have the upper hand to advance to the finals at the expense of Arsenal. Anything can still happen, and good enough, the semi-finals, first leg are due next week, midweek. But prior to that, Arsenal will have to play Newcastle over the weekend, whereas Atletico de Madrid, who played tonight and lost, by the way, will equally be in action on Saturday. Oh, come on. Lyle Foster could not keep it on target. The South African striker could not keep it on target for Burnley. Okay. Won't it be goal difference? And they are currently the same. Well, whether it's goal difference or point difference or head-to-head difference, it is for Man City to lose at the moment. That's how I look at it. Because first of all, let's begin with the latter option. Head-to-head. Head-to-head, Man City are better. They beat Arsenal and the first leg ended in a 1-1 draw. So Man City's favor. When it comes to most goals scored, Man City have scored the most goals. When it comes to goal difference at the moment, it's all square. But that can change in the next 5 games. 2, if it boils down to points, if they are level on points and they are level on goal difference, then that's when we go to head-to-head, for which Manchester City are better. When you look at the trajectory of how Arsenal have been behaving recently, they struggle to find the back of the net. And there's not been an indication that that's about to change, whether it's been in the Premier League or in the UEFA Champions League. I really, Manchester City have been sort of taking it a notch higher. They've been conceding less, but they've also been banging in the goals. As we speak in this game, they've only scored 1 goal at the moment, but at least twice they've hit the woodwork. Semenyo missed a golden chance. Brad Erling Haaland and Savinho in the same moment missed an opportunity. So really, things are still happening. So that's why I constantly say it's for Man City to lose. It's in their favor. And then also, what we know is what Pep Guardiola is capable of at this point in the season. So that's how I look at it. Zahran says, Arsenal should focus on the Champions League. Anyway, fair enough. It's a fair argument. They did last season focus on it, but it did not work out. They ended up getting knocked out by PSG, being beaten home and away by 0-0 at the Emirates Stadium and by 2-1 at Parc des Princes as they got eliminated from the UEFA Champions League. So maybe they have another crack at it, but also in the Premier League, they can't leave anything to chance. Now, what if you give up on the Premier League and then suddenly Manchester City drop points and then you're hoping you had kept in pace with them, So really, it's not going to happen that way, the way people have seemed to suggest it, or that they should simply give up on this particular competition and then focus on the other, because giving up on one and concentrating on the other is not a guarantee that you're going to win the other. Because look at the teams left in the other competition. You still have PSG, you have Bayern Munich, you have Atletico de Madrid. Only Atletico Madrid of the 4 sides left, and Arsenal are the ones that have never won it. So really, that means Bayern Munich are better than you in terms of pedigree. PSG, by the virtue of the fact that they won it last year, and despite losing the 2020 Champions League final to Bayern Munich, still have the better pedigree in the competition than Arsenal. So I think you get where I'm coming from. Then just for the laugh says, the only reason Manchester City have gone top is because they scored more goals. So if Arsenal win every game and get a better goal difference, they win the league. That's a possibility. Now, I'm not saying Arsenal cannot win it. I'm simply saying their destiny is not in their hands, because whatever you think Arsenal can do to win it, take the same assumption that Manchester City can also do the same and win it. So I'll give you an example, and allow me to use the relegation zone. I think a couple of weeks ago, West Ham beat up against Wolverhampton Wanderers by 4-0 on a Friday night game, and then in the same weekend, Tottenham Hotspur lost to Sunderland by 1-0. That meant that West Ham had leapfrogged Tottenham on the Premier League table by just a point. Now, with Spurs losing that game, it meant that they had handed over their relegation battle destiny to the hands of West Ham and all the other teams to do them a favor as they take care of their own business. So in this particular case, first of all, by the end of tonight, I believe without a reasonable doubt that Manchester City are going to be at the summit of the Premier League table. And once they are at the summit of it, then I do not think it will be easy for Arsenal to have a way back or an easy way back. So by them going up or moving top, that is where I stand to say that it will be for them to lose, in that sort of sense. So meanwhile, I need to check on this. What's just happened? In the Barcelona game, we're still into the first half, but the clock is reading 66 minutes. I mean, we're in plus 23. Is that the case? What's not happened? Anyways, we'll keep tabs on that, but there's been a couple of injuries in that one. Okay, let me read more of your comments. It's not City to lose. It's a 5-game shootout. Arsenal aren't behind. Now, remember, this is where I'm standing, or I'm coming to you from, that the moment Man City score an extra goal in this particular fixture, it will give them the advantage over Arsenal in terms of goal difference. Now, if they are level on points and level on goal difference, the next criteria will be head-to-head. In fact, the next criteria is who scored the most goals, which is currently Manchester City. And then if that is all parity, then we go to head-to-head. And Manchester City are ahead of that, So they have a couple of things to their advantage in comparison to Arsenal. It's not a given that Man City are going to win it. The same way, it's not a given that Arsenal are going to win it. That's what I wanted to say. This is Tamel Prince says, "Hi bro, I'm back. Do you remember me?" Tamel Prince. I think I do, but it's been so long that I've not seen you on the streets that I'm trying to push my memory as far back as I possibly can to try and remember the last time I saw you on the broadcast. That's what I'm trying to flex with. But I hope you're okay. I hope you're okay, or you have been okay in as far as things go. Meanwhile, Bournemouth against Leeds, that game is still 1-1 apiece as we speak. Action is continuing over that side, the same way it is continuing for Man City. Okay, just for the laugh says, it is in their hands. It is in both of teams' hands. Both have to win all their games. It's then goal difference. Arsenal need to start playing more attacking football. Now, you see, just for the laugh, that particular phrase that you're demanding Arsenal to start doing, well, Man City are already doing that. That's why I said, when you look at some of the minor things, Man City are at the top. Now, same goal difference, but because Man City have scored more goals as we speak, they have moved top of the Premier League table. They actually do not need to even have an extra goal difference better than Arsenal. But because they've scored more goals than Arsenal, they have moved to the summit of the Premier League table. And therefore, he who is at the top of the food chain has it to lose. So, because Man City have scored the more goals than Arsenal, really they are level on goal difference, it's his to lose before it gets to become Arsenal's to lose. Now, over the weekend, Manchester City are going to be playing in the semi-finals of the FA Cup against Southampton. Really, Arsenal will play on Saturday, I think at 7:30 p.m. And in playing that game, if they can win that game, they'll move to 73 points. Therefore, they'll have a 3-point advantage over Manchester City. They'll move back to the summit of the table. But with having played a game extra, so that's when, that's what is happening. Okay, just for the laugh says, the thing City have in their favor is that they have momentum. True, that's also in their favor. They have the momentum. How are you, my brother? That's Tamel Prince. I'm all right. I hope you are okay too. Remember Tamel? Yeah, I do. That's correct. Goal scored after goal difference. True. Okay. You're the best, brother. Thank you so much. Thank you, brother. I'm good. Thanks. How are you? I'm all right. Let's hope Leeds get a result. What kind of result do you wish for them, just for the laugh? Do you want them to win, or do you want them to take at least a point? Because they need a point to make it to 40 points. But from the look of things, they have conceded, and it's 2-1 against FC Bournemouth. It was bound to be a very difficult game, but that goal simply changes things for Leeds United. It's not yet doomsday for them, but it is what it is. Any result as long as they do not lose. Well, it looks like they are on the verge of defeat. So I don't know if you're going to get so lucky. I don't think you're going to get so lucky, because they are 2-1 behind. They are 2-1 behind as we speak. Anyways, okay. You say, when are you going on AFTV? I don't know. Meanwhile, the AFTV crew are coming to Uganda for a trip of 6 days. Unfortunately, for me, over the weekend, they're going to have a watch along for the Arsenal Newcastle game. I'm going to miss that because I have an event to attend. Then on Wednesday, they'll have a watch along or a watch party. Sorry, their watch parties for the UEFA Champions League game between Atletico de Madrid and the Arsenal. I reached out to Robbie Lyle via email. I don't know if he's seen the email. I don't know if he's seen it and ignored it. I don't know if he's not yet seen it, but I'm here to get a response, Basically, I simply reached out requesting for an interview, whether I could interview him and his crew, because they are coming. I think it's a team of about 13 people, but the ones usually in front of the camera is Robbie Ryle, Lee Judges, and I forget the other guy's name, Cecil, something like that. I forgive the mispronunciation of it, but I think you know who I'm. Cecil, yes, I think he's Cecil. So, that's about it. Okay, what's your take on the TY? What's your take on that TY on AFTV? What's the TY? Oh, Ty. Oh, you mean Ty? Ty on FTV. I think he's an okay guy. He's an okay guy, not very aggressive, has a calm demeanor, very argumentative sometimes. TY, Ty. Ty Loro. Okay. Point made. But this game between Burnley and Man City reminds me of the game between Man City and Leeds, that Man City won by a goal to nil. Meanwhile, Bournemouth have scored the third, so it is 3-1 against Leeds. And what that means is that Chelsea dropped a position further on the Premier League table. How did Nico O'Reilly miss from close range? Boho, Leeds, Loro. How did Nico O'Reilly miss that golden opportunity? I mean, if in a world of miracles, Burnley were to find an equalizer in this one, I think they would look at some of those moments and be thinking to themselves, how did we squander it? Because we had the opportunity to stretch our lead multiple times. The third goal against Leeds from Bournemouth is going through its offside check via VAR. We are yet to find what the verdict is. It's been ruled out for offside. So Evan Nilsson will have to wait another day to get another goal. He's one of those strikers whose goals come once in a while, like rain in the desert. They do not come very often. Can you imagine? Only his arm was in an offside position. I mean, he's not allowed to even score with his hand. I do. Okay. I'm of a view that hands should not be considered as body parts in an offside position because you're not allowed to score with your hands. You know, you're not allowed. Meanwhile, it just got nicked off Ryan Chaki's feet as Man City tried to push for the third. Pep Guardiola is looking very displeased with his team at the moment because he knows he's under pressure, by the way. He's under pressure. It's under the kind of pressure that you've not seen him have throughout the entire season. Why? Because he was only chasing the Premier League title, and now he sees it. He sees that it's very, very possible, and therefore he knows that it's his to lose at the moment. Therefore, he doesn't want to leave anything to chance. He doesn't want to leave anything to chance. In as far as tonight is concerned. But yeah, we are literally within the very final minute of the game, and like I said, for me, it was a given, as good as a formality, that Man City were going to win this game. And I don't want to say that Burnley have made it difficult for them. Manchester City have just not been clinical enough. They've just not been clinical with their chances. Otherwise, the scoreline would have been much, much different from what it is at the moment. I think now Pep Guardiola must be praying for that final whistle to come as soon as possible. But Martin Dubravka, with some good composure on there. Meanwhile, if they lose here, Burnley, their fate in the Premier League is as good as sealed. It's good as sealed. Their fate will be as good as sealed. So Barcelona at halftime lead by goal to nil against Celta Vigo. Lamine Yamal's penalty is still the difference in that one. Oh, come on. There are no miracles in football. Pep Guardiola is dying of pressure. He's saying, what? Anyway, it's game over. Manchester City won 0 Burnley. They've won it, and they are at the summit of the Premier League table. I'm sure a small cohort of Arsenal fans were out there praying and hoping against hope for a Burnley equalizer. Well, it's not going to come. It's not going to come. It's basically done. The game is finished. They've won it. It won't matter. It will matter less how they've done it, but the fact that they've done it. And it was Brad Erling Haaland's goal that separated the two sides. That crucial goal. Meanwhile, Leeds have an equalizer against Bournemouth. They have an equalizer against Bournemouth in very, very late on in this game. I'm yet to see the goal. Wow. Sean Longstaff with the goal. Beautiful, beautiful goal. It's 2-2, and the points look destined to be shared. Remember, Bournemouth had a goal ruled out on the other side for offside, and now they've conceded. Therefore, what that will imply on the Premier League table is that Chelsea may not be dropping just yet at the expense of Bournemouth. But it still could be. It still could be. because they're going to be at 49 points. Oh, there's a Leeds player in an offside position, but does he obstruct the Bournemouth goalkeeper? It will be checked. It will be checked for whether he's blocking the goalkeeper's view. VAR says the goal will stand, but how is he not blocking the view of the goalkeeper if George Petrovic has to jump up a little bit just to try get a clear sight of the ball, where it is in play? Anyways, we'll see about that. Andoni Irela is not having it. He thinks he's been robbed. First of all, they had their goal cancelled on the other side for offside, and he thinks there's been an offside on this end, but it's not been taken into consideration or been taken up. Let's see where this one all ends. Meanwhile, Barcelona are back in action for the second half. Meanwhile, guys, it's finished. Full-time score, Leeds 2, Bournemouth 2, points are shared. The points are shared. And at long last, Manchester City are at the summit of the Premier League table with 70 points, as many as Arsenal, who have now slipped in second place. It is an I told you so moment in Arsenal's season. Meanwhile, Bournemouth have had to settle for a point, so they moved to 7th with 49 points. And then Chelsea slipped to 8th place. So, speaking of Chelsea, they have sacked Liam Rosenior. He came in January, signed a 5.5-year contract. Apparently, from what we are learning, there was an exit clause in that contract. Therefore, Chelsea will not be obligated to pay him for the entirety of what was left of that contract, but rather perhaps a pre-agreed sum at this point. Nonetheless, it is still a managerial change for Chelsea. How many managerial changes are they going to go through? But it is what it is. It is what it is. So it is their bet. They made it, so let them lay in it. So far. So for now, we're going to turn our attention to Chelsea, because, like I said, they have made the headlines, not for the right reasons, in my opinion, for all the wrong reasons. But before we turn our attentions to Chelsea, I was telling you earlier on that Atletico de Madrid got beat by 3-2. They finished that game with a manless following a first half red card. Now, some players, I don't know if they're daft, because a player, what happened was that Almada, in his mind, felt he had been fouled. So he attempted to stop an opponent player from scoring, and in impeding him, it was charged that he denied a clear and goal scoring opportunity. So he got a straight red card. Why? Because he basically tried to take the officiation of the game into his own hands to say, I have been fouled and I deserve a free kick. Therefore, he pulled his opponent. And I was thinking to myself, how on God's green earth are you going to do that? How dare you cost your team with such a stupid decision? They had already gone into the lead through Nico Gonzalez, and then Elche found the equalizer, but Nico Gonzalez scored the second in that one, but that was to cancel out Silva's penalty. So, and then in the 75th minute, Silva, I think he's called Andre Silva, scored to make it 3-2, and that's how it finished, with Atletico de Madrid dropping more points. or losing another game of football. In the other game, Real Sociedad, Jesus Christ, already. Real Sociedad got beat by Getafe by a goal to nil. So, anyways, as we follow the proceedings from the Barcelona game against Celta Vigo, Chelsea today decided to send Liam Rosenior packing. And the reason for it was simple. A poor run of results. Excuse me. Oh, Jesus Christ. I'll find that later. Anyways, like I was saying, they decided to make a managerial change. A poor run of results of 5 consecutive games of losses in the Premier League, released without scoring a single goal, was sufficient to convince Chelsea bosses of Todibori and Egbadi that they needed to make a change. And they've parted ways with Liam Rosenior. Over the last couple of days, Chelsea has been a key topic on this channel because I don't know where Adash is today. Oh, Adash is here. Hi, Adash. Good evening. How are you doing? I hope you're right. So, in just, was it over or slightly under months? When was he appointed? Early Jan. So, Jan, Feb, March. I mean, in under 4 months, he's been sacked. For a man who signed a 5.5-year contract, I mean, that's as quick as it gets. You know, that's as quick as it gets. So, in those 3 consecutive defeats, Chelsea had failed to score a single goal. And that was happening for the first time since November 1912, according to online sources. 2, in losing 5 consecutive games in the league or in the Premier League, that was the first time it was happening since November 1993. In other words, he was breaking all records, not for the good, but for the bad. Then, in the last 9 games, they've only won 1 fixture. And 5 consecutive losses, 2 that's in the Premier League, 2 losses in the UEFA Champions League, that's 7. Now, and then prior, they had lost to Arsenal by 2-1. And then in between there, the only game they've won is against Port Vale in the FA Cup. So those results were deemed inexcusable for a Chelsea head coach. And therefore, they've decided, we have seen enough of you. It's time to go our separate ways, you know? And then in 12 games, they had not kept a clean sheet. So they were neither good defensively nor better offensively. Now, his bosses yesterday watched the game at the Amex Stadium, or the American Express Stadium, as Brighton obliterated Chelsea by 3-0. And at the end of that game, he apologized to the traveling fans for what a shambolic performance of a display his Chelsea players had displayed on the night. On a night when he played with a back 3 and wing backs, and it was just a poor performance. Chelsea, 0 shots on target. You know, and I think about only 2 off targets. So it's just poor. Now, he's managed them through, I think, about 23 games in total that he's managed them through. And they've won about 11 of those. They've won about 11 of those. And then I think those 11 wins, 5 came in the Premier League, 4 came in the FA Cup, that's 9, plus 2 in the UEFA Champions League. And that was against Paphos by 1-0, and against Napoli by 3-2. So elsewhere, they've been just losing. In other words, they lost 12 games out of the possible 23. No, actually, They didn't lose 12 games, but they had, because they had 2 draws against Burnley and against Leeds in the Premier League. So add that to the 11, that's 13. In other words, he possibly lost what? Then he also won the game against Wrexham in the FA Cup, but that was on penalty. Sorry, on in extra time. I think 4-2 after extra time. So, in a nutshell, across all competitions, I think he won 12, drew 2, and lost the others. So Liam Rosenior, and there he is, gone. Then, yesterday, in the aftermath of that defeat, he had a contrasting view of how he viewed the game and how his own players viewed the game. And this is in comparison of notes for what Trevor Chalobah told the media in the aftermath of that defeat. He thought the boys ran their socks off. He thought there was never lack of effort. He thought the boys showed desire. And when he looked around the dressing room, everybody was tired. In contrast, their manager on the other side was busy telling the media, one, that it was an unacceptable performance, that next weekend or on Sunday he will choose the right players to represent Chelsea, that he had seen a lack of desire, a lack of effort, all things contrary to basically what Trevor Chalobah was saying, So there's that issue. It's payback time for Chelsea, and they are doing in the right time, So now you reflect back on, regardless of what happened with Enzo Maresca, what I've been saying all through, that it never felt the right thing to do. Now, 40-year-old Carl McFarlane, I think it's pronounced Carl McFarlane, will take charge of Chelsea. He's, of course, an academy coach, but he will take charge of Chelsea as an interim until the end of the season. When they sacked Enzo Maresca in January, he took charge of Chelsea for 2 games. They won all draw against Manchester City away to the Etihad Stadium, and they lost against Fulham. So he comes back to take charge of this team until the end of the season, when Chelsea will be waiting to appoint who they believe will be the right replacement for Liam Rosenior. Even though Chelsea are yet to speak to any managers, preliminary reports do indicate that FC Bournemouth's Andoni Iraola was since announced that he will be leaving the club at the end of the season. Edin Terzic, formerly at Borussia Dortmund, among the candidates that Chelsea could consider for the job. Now, it's going to be a difficult one, both whoever is incoming and for Chelsea in the recruitment sense of it. Today, we're having a conversation about Real Madrid and their search for a manager. And somebody mentioned how hard it is at the moment to find very, very good managers or head coaches out there. They're really, really hard to find. And according to Fabrizio Romano, he says Real Madrid are looking for a serial winner, an experienced manager with a good reputation, very competitive guy. The question is, how many of those are in the market? Not very many. When you look around, those that are capable of going to Real Madrid, because you're going to count out the likes of Pep Guardiola. Meanwhile, Ferran Torres has scored, and it's 2-0 for Barcelona as we speak. So you have the likes of Pep Guardiola who are never going to go. Okay, I can never say never, but it is very unlikely that he goes to Real Madrid. You have Carlo Ancelotti who just left, so he's not going to go back. So that leaves you with options like Didier Deschamps, who is currently with the French national team. It leaves you with the likes of Jurgen Klopp. Is an option, has largely been mentioned. the likes of Jose Mario Felix Mourinho has recently been sounded in the wake of filling that vacancy at Real Madrid. Then the other one has been, I'm trying to remember. I do not think they are going to go for Thomas Tuchel. He's not a serial winner. He has the experience, but he's not a serial winner, you know? Then Unai Emery. Is he a serial winner? He has experience. He's proven himself in the Spanish La Liga, not with any pieces of silverware, but perhaps in terms of the league itself, but in the Europa League. So it shows you how hard you have to look. Are you going to go for Simone Inzaghi from Al Hilal? Who are you going to look to bring? You know, it looks like the market is devoid of those experienced coaches whose services you'd seek to deploy at this stage, you know. And majority of those that you have around the block, the average still largely rookie head coaches. Xabi Alonso, Maresca, Xavi Hernandez, of course, is not going to go to Barcelona. Sorry, to Real Madrid. Cesc Fabregas is yet to win anything. Mikel Arteta, that sort of crop of, that crop of coaches. Okay, it's only, sorry, Saumia, you had your message retracted. I don't know why. Okay, let me read some of the other comments. Adash says 8th position for Chelsea is like a death trap for any team. Okay, Saumia, I think you retracted your other comments. You say, hi, I'm back. Good to have you back, Saumia. I hope you're doing okay. Either you play your best or go home red-faced. Well, that's Chelsea for you. So I think for as long as results were not going their way, it was inevitable that Liam Rosenior stays with Chelsea, And it's simply that. But maybe the one manager I had forgotten to mention in the work of Real Madrid was Antonio Conte. Antonio Conte is a serial winner, but he's never won the UEFA Champions League. I don't know if Real Madrid would be willing to take a bet on him. I do not know. We'll wait to see. So, but he's a workaholic. He's a workaholic. You see this quote-unquote lazy Arsenal side, he'd win them the Premier League title in his debut campaign. Trust me. So, for Chelsea, it's going to be an even longer summer because the World Cup doesn't help. Meanwhile, okay, I just wanted to reflect back on some of those comments from Liam Rosenior, in contrast to those of Trevor Chalobah in the aftermath of yesterday's game. So Trevor Chalobah said it's nothing to do with effort. The boys were running their socks off. If you look in the dressing room, everyone is tired. We gave it our all. We got beat today. We ran today. The stats are stats. The boys are tired. Now, he emphasizes the word tired as though he isn't trying to insinuate something. But I won't dwell on that. On the other side, his manager / head coach in Liam Rosenior was busy saying that tonight was not about tactics. It was about desire. And then he went on to say, tonight was not about tactics. This was about desire, spirit, courage, and I did not see enough of that. Nowhere near good enough. He went on to add that I'm honest with the players. That was an unacceptable performance. You are playing for Chelsea. I am managing Chelsea. And if you can't handle that, you should not be here. So then he adds on to say that I do not feel there is a disconnect between me and the players. There is a lack of spirit, a lack of belief that can create that perspective. So, and then he concluded, okay, partly said the general attitude, the spirit was lacking, determination from a 3 or 4 of the starting 11, that's nowhere near enough for this club. So, in Trevor Chaloba's assessment of the game, he thought they ran their socks off, and everybody in the dressing room was that they had given their all, and yet somehow they did not win. Now, on the other side, the head coach Liam Rosenior is saying we were not good enough. We were not good enough. So the question is, who is wrong, who is right? Usually, when a manager gets sacked, or before they get sacked, there's always that mood within the dressing room, or in at least, it may not be across the entire dressing room, but in a facet of players who think, I think I'm done with this guy, or he just doesn't cut it for me. And I would want to believe that maybe some of those players are going to feel exonerated to say, we were right, this guy was never good enough. This guy was never good enough for us. So the likes of Marco Cucurella, Enzo Fernandez, and I do not put it on them, but whichever loyal soldiers Enzo Maresca may have left in that dressing room are going to look back with, I don't know, I don't think it will be relief. But there will be a sense of satisfaction to say, we were right about the club getting it wrong to sack Maresca, because the decision was taken at the wrong time. And that's what Marco Correa spoke about, when he suggested that if the club needed to make a change, perhaps they should have waited until the summer. But they did not wait. They did not wait. And those are the results. Okay. Adash says Manchester United is going through a tough phase. Some decisions are excellent and some are poor. What tough decision are Manchester United going through? Man United at the moment, I think they are as comfortable as they have ever been. I, for one, have not had any rumors seeping through the cracks from Manchester United to say that there is any form of anxiety or tension in regards for the search of a new manager. We've had no reports of anybody being interviewed or managers being explored. All we hear is about Carrick this, Carrick that, Carrick etc. So we just have to wait and see. Chances are they're increasingly that they are going to give the job to Michael Carrick. We'll have to wait and see. Raymond says, hi, Chelsea manager Rosenior has been sacked from Chelsea. Chelsea appointed Frank Lampard as the manager for Chelsea from Ray. Raymond, where are you reading the Frank Lampard news from? Frank Lampard just guided Coventry to promotion to the Premier League and just yesterday to the championship of the Sky Bet Championship, or the triumph of that league, which is the second division of English football. So where are you reading the news that he's been appointed at Chelsea? That doesn't make sense. If it does make sense to you, please cancel your source. But they have sacked Liam Rosenior as a true part of the statement. So anyways, I'll leave the Chelsea conversation at that because it's one that I've spoken about at great length. For those of you that are regulars on this channel, you'll know that we've had the conversation about Chelsea more often than not in the last couple of 48 hours. Then also, there's a bit of a concerning misfortune or trend that seems to be happening. And it's to do with injuries. Serge Gnabry is set to miss the World Cup with the German national team due to an injury that he suffered while in training with Bayern Munich. William Esteval is believed to have suffered a grade 4 hamstring and therefore is bound to miss out on the World Cup. Rodrigo Goes suffered a knee injury that will keep him out of action and therefore will miss the World Cup. Hugo Ekitike suffered an Achilles tendon tear, which will see him miss the World Cup. You see where this is going? There seems to be a cohort of players that have suffered the misfortune. So, whereas injuries are part of the game, it's quite unfortunate for some of these players. Raymond says, hi, Arsenal versus Newcastle United. It is a Newcastle loss. Ateta and Ed Howe, which manager, job is on the line. None of those has their job on the line until we wrap up the season. I don't think any of those clubs is going to part ways with their manager before the season wraps up, regardless of what happens. I know you desperately want Ed Howe out, but it's going to have to wait until the end of the season. Meanwhile, John Stones, it's said to be announced soon rather than later that he will be parting ways with Manchester City at the end of the season. That's a conversation we've held before on the channel, and I gave my thoughts. He joined them from Everton, I think back in 2016 for about what, 40, 50 million pounds. And he's been a decent servant. Really, he's suffered many injuries that have largely kept him out of action for the last 10 years in many ways than not. Then Juventus are looking for an elite goalkeeper and have their sights on Liverpool's Alson Ramsey-Baker as their primary target for a goalkeeper. I think Alson Ramsey-Baker would be quite the coup for any team. For any team. So we'll have to wait and see. Meanwhile, Barcelona keep pushing. They're looking for that third goal. If they win here tonight, as they look or appear to be destined to do so, they will be restoring their 9-point cushion at the summit of the La Liga standings. You know, that's what will be happening. Really? Okay, at last, at long last. Thomas Tuchel could be possibly an option. Who knows? An option for Real Madrid, for Chelsea, for what team? For Man United? First of all, remember or forget not that not too far back, he put pen to paper on a new long-term contract with the England national team. Of course, should he have a poor performance at the World Cup 2026 this summer, that contract will be ripped up very, very quickly. You know? So, but in the wake of Real Madrid, like I said, he is a winner, but not a serial winner. Not a serial winner. He has one UEFA Champions League title to his name. He has one German Bundesliga title to his name with Bayern Munich. I think he has a French League title, one or two, with PSG. Raymond says, hi, Arsenal versus Newcastle United. In the Premier League, it is a loss for Newcastle. Ateta, I've already responded to that, Raymond. So I will not repeat it. Anyways, So, I mean, it's going to be a difficult sort of managerial market because I'll tell you why it's going to be difficult. Arsenal fans are hoping for a change. There are some with a school of thought that regardless of what happens between now and the end of the season, Arsenal should part ways with Mikel Arteta. Two, if they do, then what are their options? Wishfully so, many of them think Luis Enrique is the go-to guy. They do not have any other suggestion other than that. Of course, Julian Nagelsmann is also been mentioned, and Chelsea also considered appointing Julian Nagelsmann, who is currently with the German national team, before appointing Mauricio Pochettino at the start of the 2023-2024 season. When you speak of options, Mauricio Pochettino is sort of a well-regarded name within the realms of Spanish football. However, he's not won there before. He did good at Espanyol. I don't know if he would be a candidate for Real Madrid. And I do not think we could see his return to Chelsea under the same ownership or the same leadership. It looks increasingly unlikely. Manchester United, if they want to think beyond Michael Carrick, he could be an option for them. So we're just going to have to wait and see. But for Chelsea, there's also been subtle mentions of Marco Silva, whose contract runs out at the end of the season with Fulham. Oliver Glasner, there's not much chatter about his name, despite even him bound to be a free coach looking for a job at the end of the season, So we just have to wait and see how this thing pans out. Guys, forget not, like I said, tomorrow morning, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do a morning broadcast. I have some business to take care of or some issues to take care of. So that will cause me to be absent on the forum, So yeah. Then oh, you meant for Chelsea. But I mean, Thomas Tuchel returning to Chelsea under the same leadership that sacked him in the first place. I mean, you can't rule it out because he's already said he has unfinished business in the Premier League, but we just have to wait and see. We just have to wait and see. Hi, Arsenal Newcastle. What is your prediction between Arsenal and Newcastle? I'll go Arsenal to win 2-1. To find a way to bounce back and win 2-1. I don't remember the last time they lost 3 consecutive games. I struggle to remember. But they've lost the last 2. But it is not even consecutive games. But particularly in the Premier League, because they lost to Bournemouth and lost to Man City. So I wait to see what's going to happen for them. But I think for Thomas Tuchel, yes, it's wishful. We all wish our teams well and hope that they find Yesterday, Hans Flick was saying Barcelona will be his last club job, and he wants to win the UEFA Champions League with them. So it's not an option to be lodged out of the job. Whereas there are reports that Gian Piero Gasperini could leave Roma at the end of the season because of what appears to be running battles between him and the club's advisor in Claudio Ranieri. We wait to see. Jurgen Klopp could be called out of retirement. Okay, not retirement, but sabbatical. I do not think he would consider making a move to Chelsea. I can't rule it out. You never know what the incentives are. But he said if he were ever to return to the Premier League, it can only be Liverpool. At least that's what he said. But people change their minds. Pep Linda said the same thing. And then he's back working with Pep Guardiola. So, you know. So, that's just about it. When it comes to Chelsea, it's going to be difficult. It's very unfortunate. But Chelsea fans, you've suffered enough. Is it enough though? Is it bad to end? When I say they've suffered enough, I was part of a forum where Chelsea fans were near tears. You know, near tears. Anyways, allow me to wrap it up here tonight. It's been a pleasure. Raymond Kangumba, Adash, thank you so much for having been part of tonight's conversation. Saumia, good to have you back. Just for the laugh, it was a pleasure to see you around. Tamil Prince, thank you so much. Good to have you return after a long while. Then Zahran, thank you so much for having been part of tonight's discussion. Sonu, thank you so much for having been part of it. Khadija Muhammad, thank you so much for having been part of tonight's conversation. It's been a pleasure doing this with you. Let's do this again tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday. Tomorrow at 11 p.m. That's if I'm able to get back on time. But should I be unable, you'll know. But I think I'll try my best if all goes well. God willing, inshallah, we all only pray for good health, and provided factors are kept constant, we'll be back. So have yourselves a blessed night. Let's do this again tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.